Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for investing your time with us on a Thursday evening. This is Dalia Fahmi, Engagement Manager at Business Borderline and a business analyst. It's my pleasure to facilitate this amazing panel discussion on the service gap between business analysis and management consultancy. We will have 20 minutes at the end of the webinar to answer all your questions. So please post your questions to the panel during the discussion using the chat function. I would like to welcome our honorable and distinguished panelists, Deborah Paul, Managing Director at Assist Knowledge Development, a UK's leading provider of business analysis training and the author of several best-selling business analysis books. Christina Lovelock, Business Analysis and Solution Architecture Manager at the University of Leeds, UK, and a co-author of Delivering Business Analysis book. Angie Isa, Founder and Managing Partner at Business Borderlines, a lecturer at Islaska University, Paris Islaska Business School, and a business analyst. Ayman Mashhour, Consultant and Strategic Management Advisor to the Deputy Minister of Communication and Information Technology, and a guest lecturer at the Faculty of Engineering, Cairo University. Wael El-Hato, Chef Executive Officer and a partner at Cow Gifts, leading gifting and lifestyle stores in Egypt. Previously served as Chef Executive Officer and a board member in several enterprises across different industries, some of which are real estate, oil and gas, as well as healthcare industry. And finally, Rami Amr, Service Delivery Manager, Partner at Business Borderlines, a business strategist, and a business architect. Our webinar today is organized by BBL in collaboration with BCS. Business Borderlines, or BBL, is a leading business analysis professional service provider. Our mission in BBL is helping organizations reach common understanding and clarity of their business requirements, existing business problems, as well as limitations, and defining the best business solution option that addresses their business challenges or offers new opportunities. And because we understand the pains caused by poor business architecture, poorly defined requirements, or unclear strategic direction within a business, our role is to relieve this burden and present clarity for business initiatives, as well as software solutions across all levels of an organization. I will leave the floor now to Bernie Scott, BCS Director of International Sales, to give us a brief about BCS and our successful collaboration over the past few years. Please, Bernie.
Thank you. Evening all. I'm going to speak a little bit about who BCS are, what we do, and the work that we've been doing with Business Borderlines through supporting business analysis professionals within Egypt. In terms of our mission, it's about making IT good for society. We promote and advance the education and practice of computing for the benefit of all. This helps to create our vision for a competent and ethical profession that's diverse, inclusive, and plentiful in talent at all levels, and a society that's resilient and thriving in a digital world. We achieve these by supporting careers through facilitating professional development, sharing expertise through our special interest groups of webinars and through knowledge sharing, with improving education by working in partnerships to improve computing education at all levels, influencing practice and driving standards through our chartered IT professional status. We've been working closely with Business Borderlines for almost 5 years now. They have been our first accredited training provider in Egypt, delivering business analysis training and certifications to those starting their career in business analysis, those who might be looking to change their careers, or practitioners within the discipline. And we ourselves at BCS have over 20 years of experience in developing syllabi and exams within the business analysis space. And currently we have over 15 different certifications at various levels within this business analysis space. From an industry perspective within the BA discipline, over 3/4 of IT leaders are looking to enhance their IT skills and capabilities in their workforce. And half of IT leaders cite business change and transformation as a priority area for them. And finally, through a recent study that we've done, over 85% of business analysis surveys across the world said that they're likely to study for a qualification within the next 3 years. So the demand for upskilling and staying relevant has never been more pressing, really. And that's all I wanted to just say about BCS, who we are, and some of the work that we're doing with business borderlines. So thank you very much. Back over to you, Dalia.
Thank you, Bernie. That was very enlightening. Please allow me to kick off the conversation by asking, where do business analysis and management consultancy overlap, and when these two services do diverge? Each panelist will take 2 to 3 minutes to give their thoughts regarding this interesting topic. So Deborah, I want to come to you first. Business analysis and management consultancy, where do they overlap and diverge?
Okay, thank you. And hello, everybody. Thank you for inviting me along to discuss this really interesting topic. Management consultancy, I think, says it all in the title, really, because I run a business. If I want management consultancy to come in, I'm expecting them to work with me as an executive. I would be expecting them to help me analyze and define the strategy for my organization, where my organization can go, and to bring an external objective perspective to that particular picture. Within my company, we do a lot of business analysis. As you said, we offer business analysis training and consultancy, but we do a lot of business analysis too. And the business analysis that we do reflects the services that business analysts offer. So they're much more at the execution of strategy, putting the tactics and the operations in place that are going to make the organization achieve what the leadership want it to achieve. So if you think about it that way, you can see that management consultants, they're helping management, they're helping the executives to define their direction, if you like, to look at the why for the organization and the direction the organization is going to go in. The business analysts are going to make sure that everything is in place to achieve that. The systems, the people, the processes, the structures, everything that is needed at a tactical and operational level to make sure you have success in getting to that strategy.
Interesting. Thanks, Deborah. Christina, can I have you next on business analysis and management consultancy similarities and differences?
Probably going to build on Deborah's point a little bit there. So I've worked with a lot of consultants, whether they're individuals or part of a larger company. And something that successful consultants do really well is where they pitch their engagement. They're careful to understand who the senior stakeholders are. And they engage those senior stakeholders and get introductions from them to the point that so what they do is they get regular time with that senior person or group of senior stakeholders and regularly feedback to them on the process, on their progress and the blockers that they might be experiencing. And then when they've had those introductions and they're speaking to the right people, what they're often doing is business analysis activities, but the way that they engage with the work can be quite different to how BAs work. Consultants are also very good about being clear on what they've been engaged to do, what's in and outside of the scope that they're going to do. And this allows them to be reasonably clear about what they're going to deliver and when. And whereas BAs often drive in straight away without that clarity and without that sponsorship. And we champion business users, which is great, but that lack of senior sponsorship, and not just sponsorship actually, but advocacy for business analysis can also impact the effectiveness. So I think that the skill set of the BA and the consultant is really similar, and that BA should be positioned as an internal consultancy, be able to think objectively and identify problems and work closely with stakeholders and identify options, and whether that's process change, systems change, or cultural change. And the thing that BAs can really learn from consultants is around that sponsorship and gaining clarity. And the thing that consultants can learn from BAs is our wide toolkit of analysis techniques, as something that sometimes consultants can be quite limited in. They might argue they're being streamlined, is that they don't always use the variety of techniques that we have available as BAs.
Fantastic. Thanks, Christina. Angie, can I bring you in to give your thoughts regarding today's critical topic, management consultancy and business analysis?
Okay, I'd like to just summarize the business analyst role in 4 simple points. Our job is to ask the right questions and not necessarily have the right answers. Our job is to do a diligent investigation and fact-finding to trigger an enriching dialogue between the different stakeholders, and this would ultimately reach or lead to clarity, as Christina mentioned. I actually think that this can be done on strategy formulation level or strategy execution level, not necessarily on an execution level only. The 4th point is that BAs are not challenged by complexity or ambiguity, as we are very well trained to dissect and deassemble and explore problems. And this is the main difference between our role as BAs and a management consultant, as Deborah suggested, who's someone actually involved in managing as a business leader would. That's a completely different role from a business leader, what I just explained.
Amazing. Thanks, Angie. Ayman, please let me know if I can bring you in for your thoughts on where business analysis and management consultancy align and differ.
Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity to share my thoughts here. So in my view, generally, there's a lot of overlapping in life. So viewing things in the form of strict dichotomies may not always be necessary or the appropriate way of looking at things. One view, however, is to consider business analysis as a subset of a wider range of management consulting offerings. On the other hand, I have a view and a conviction that all knowledge workers today need 4 mindsets. Basically, a mindset of a strategist to be able to articulate goals and objectives, a business analyst mindset to devise the roadmap to effect the desired change and to move on to the to-be kind of future, and a consultant mindset to be able to communicate and develop relationships with the various team players and stakeholders and customers, etc. And finally, a project manager mindset to make things really happen and to be able to deliver. You can think of those as competencies, and that's a very legitimate point of view. I would rather view them as frames of reference. Some people obviously can be equally good at using those 4 hats or 4 frames of reference or mindsets. And whenever there's a bit of a challenge in leveraging one or the other, one should have the appropriate self-awareness to make him or her realize the need for synergizing with other players to fill that void or voids. Chances are, in terms of development and evolution, that on the back of multiple engagements over time, one can get better and better at leveraging the 4 kind of frames of reference. I contend that those having this kind of mastery of the 4 mindsets and the practitioners that customers would love to work with. And a key enabler, obviously, to achieve that is to pursue lifelong learning as an essential part of one's life. So thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ayman. Wael, can you come in to provide your view regarding business analysis and management consultancy similarities and differences?
Sure. Thank you, Dalia, for having me. Hello, everyone. I think that the terms management consultancy and business analysis, I mean, there is quite a lot of overlap. And I think it depends on really the types of services, the types of consultancy being provided. I mean, it depends, you know, whether you know the business analyst is looking at the business from a process standpoint, whether the analyst is looking at the business from a financial standpoint, whether the analyst is looking at the business from a human resources a standpoint. Their scope will differ, and the toolbox that they use differs. But what tends to be common across them is that their scope is a lot more narrower than your typical management consultant, who's usually a step ahead, looking at things sort of more of at a macro level, prioritizing initiatives and projects, and sort of a big picture thinker. And the business analyst is usually a more focused member of the team, looking at different perspectives of the business, but much narrower. And that's what I typically tend to find, whether it's an IT analyst or whether it's a financial analyst, but they tend to be a lot narrower in their view of the organization.
Fantastic. Thanks, Wael. Rami, let's hear your perception on our hot topic for today, business analysis versus management consultancy.
Thank you, Dalia. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Briefly, let me tell you that there may be a lot of efforts that's being or trying to identify what is the role of an analyst and the role of the consultant. Yes, there are some frameworks that have achieved this part, but still, despite all these efforts, these definitions have not been cascaded yet to business community. A lot of gray definitions in the business community about what is the business consultant, who is the business analyst, and what are their roles. And I think this eventually in some years, this may be evolved to crystallized and clear definition, unified definition for both of them. However, in my opinion, if you ask me about the relation between the consultant and an analyst, I think that the relation is a mean to an end. The consultancy is concerned about giving a consultation and advice, a recommended solution to improve the business performance and the organization performance overall. On the other hand, the business analysis is a framework, methods, tools, activities, and set of skills that are being used by anyone to investigate a business situation, find the core business problem, and define the recommended solution to address these problems and fulfilling these needs. Of course, while working in a context containing many stakeholders with different perspectives. If the consultant jumped to a recommended solution or advice without proper analysis, without proper investigating the situation, probably his advice or recommended solution will be or will not be practical. That's why the consultant, to deliver a proper consultation or advice, he will or she will have to use the business analysis framework. In a nutshell, I can summarize that business analysis, it is a framework that guides our way of thinking. It's a framework that guides our minds to proper thinking, analytical thinking, critical thinking, and eventually will evolve to dialectical thinking. Business analysis is a framework for business problem solving, and it delivers a consultation and enables the consultant to deliver his role. A consultant, at the end, a consultant will not be a real consultant unless he is an analyst. Thank you, Dalia.
Excellent. Thanks, Rami. That was all very useful. Thank you all. Thank you, everybody. Now let me move back to you, Deborah. With your extensive knowledge and expertise in the field, let me ask you, what are the commonalities and differences between business analysts, subject matter experts, and consultants?
Well, that's a big question. That's a very broad area. If we look at business analysts first, business analysts as a discipline and as a role has been discussed, debated, all sorts of different things talked about around it for a very long time. And there are different ways of defining it. And one of the things that I have found over many years and through lots of research is you can't define it in a sentence. There's too much. Business analysis has an extensive toolkit of skills and techniques, extensive, okay? And that reflects the fact that the services offered by business analysts are also extensive. And I think Angie said about ambiguity. A business analyst has to be able to accept that any situation, any project, any assignment that they go into is going to be one where they're going to have to explore and investigate and find out. They can't take what is stated to be the problem as the problem. They certainly can't take the here's the solution as the solution. They've got to be open-minded and they've got to be able to cope with that because they could be faced with something very complex. But equally, business analysts have to sometimes go into pieces of work where things have already been scoped, where the problem has already been investigated, where it is maybe a situation where processes need to be improved or requirements need to be defined. So there's all sorts of different services that business analysts can help with and can support when trying to improve how an organization operates. If you look at that in the light of subject matter experts, and I prefer the term domain experts, okay, because I think that is clearer, but I know SME is a very broadly used term nowadays. And I have to say, I sometimes hear it being used in so many situations where it doesn't actually apply. But let's unpick it. What we're saying is we have somebody who knows a particular area. Many years ago, I used to work for a software integration and consultancy company, and we had experts in subjects like transport. Okay, so even though it was a software integration company, we employed people who knew all about trains and things like that. And they were really expert in those particular domains. And they could bring something from across that particular area of work that the rest of us couldn't bring because we didn't have that in-depth knowledge. And I think a subject matter expert should be somebody that has that. So it could be someone who works in a particular area of government and really, really understands it and knows all the legalities, and so can actually bring that knowledge and expertise to bear. So business analysts work very comfortably with subject matter experts because business analysts know their toolkit. They know they're analytical thinkers, and I think that is absolutely vital about a business analyst. But they probably don't have the in-depth knowledge of a particular sector or industry or domain in the way a subject matter expert would. So if we look at consultants now, if we talk about consultants in a broader perspective, business analysts tend to be internal to organizations, but they're not always. So some business analysts are consultants. They're brought in as business analysis consultants. And that is because they've got that extensive toolkit. They can offer an array of business analysis services, and they're comfortable with working in different types of organization. But if we were talking about management consultants, then I think we'd be looking at, again, a different set of services. And we would be looking at a set of services, in my mind, that actually was helping management to guide and manage an organization rather than address the problems of how the organization is actually behaving and performing and operating. So you've got sort of different service portfolios across the three, But if you talk about consultants just as consultants, subject matter experts can be consultants, business analysts can be consultants, management consultants are consultants. And the difference there tends to be that they are external, not always, but it tends to be. And therefore, they often don't know the people in the organization. They have to get in and start understanding the people. And they don't always know, because they're not internal, where the levers of power are, where the people you need to know to speak to, even though they may not be the obvious leaders of the organization. So if they're an external consultant, they've got a lot of stakeholder relationship engagement work to do in order to be able to do their work.
Thank you, Deborah. That was very insightful. Thank you so much. Christina, let me move to you. You have been providing practical guidance for BA leaders, and you have been an active member in the professional community. Can I ask you what different skills and competences are required for each role, business analyst, subject matter expert, and a consultant?
This is a great question, because I think there are elements of each of those that belong in each role. And I'm going to start with subject matter expertise, because it's an area I feel quite strongly about, and others may not necessarily agree with me. But I don't think that BAs need subject matter expertise to do a good job. And what I mean by that is when I see roles advertised that are called things like Dynamics 365 business analyst, it makes my heart sink, because it means that that BA is going to be really tightly constrained. Whatever the problem is, the answer is going to be Microsoft Dynamics. So that's one way that we try to constrain BAs, by the technology. Another is by their industry knowledge. For example, referring to someone as a financial services BA. And people do this because they think it's a shortcut, that this person already knows the language and the legislation. It seems like that's a way that we're going to be able to achieve our goals quicker. But in my experience, and I have hired and interviewed hundreds of BAs over the last 15 years across different industries, I would always choose a more competent BA than a less competent one with relevant industry knowledge. Because great BAs are curious, and they'll be getting the information that they need, asking the right questions and engaging stakeholders really quickly. And in an ideal world, we might want someone who has both subject matter expertise and great BA skills. But if you limit your search to just a financial services business analyst, you're not even giving yourself the option to find a great BA who has relevant different experience to share. I think there's also some notable downsides to BAs having too much business knowledge, because they start to trade on that, and the value that they're then offering their organization becomes more about retaining corporate knowledge and being a quicker access, quicker route to that knowledge than anybody else looking it up. And people come to rely on that too much. It becomes a real business risk, because if you lose that BA, not only are you losing the BA skills from the organization, but you're losing a massive amount of business knowledge. It also means that the BA is not really objective. They're not coming to the problem with a fresh pair of eyes. They might be bringing with them assumptions. Their knowledge might go out of date really quickly. And much of their time will be spent doing other things that are not really business analysis, like answering queries and providing system support. And BAs in that position can start to feel de-skilled and lacking challenge, or they become too comfortable, and now they're really more in a business as usual role. They're not doing analytical thinking anymore. And BAs need to build up that subject matter knowledge really quickly, so to be curious and be asking great questions. It's a nice feeling to be the first point of contact for something, with business stakeholders coming to ask you questions about their systems and their processes. It feels really positive, and it feels like, yes, I'm making a real contribution here, and they couldn't do this without me. But in reality, it means that we're not adding value through our BA skills. We become a source of knowledge. And a key skill for subject matter experts is not to become too complacent. They have to be looking to the future, understanding how their area is going to be impacted by change, how it might be disrupted by advances in technology. But they also need to be championing in that change. When subject matter experts become too focused on the past and trying to maintain the status quo, they move away from becoming subject matter experts and really become blockers. They've probably built up that knowledge over many years, but the pace of change is increasing in all organisations, and part of that SME role is now about keeping on top of that subject and helping the organisation to new opportunities and challenges. I want to come back now to the skills of the consultant, and I'd like to talk about the consultancy cycle, which is something Debbie and I included in our recent book. And we think it's an area that BAs have a real opportunity to learn and develop. The consultancy cycle is made up of 6 steps. And the first one is around gaining entry. And this is how the consultant is engaged with the work, how they get assigned to that organisation or awarded the work. And as I mentioned before, this is critical to be invited in. BAs often feel like we're fighting for early involvement, and we really need to create a situation where we are invited in, and we have the right relationships and the right exposure. And the next step is about contracting. This is time for setting expectations, for building trust, and setting ground rules about how we're going to work together. And it's not until step 3 where we start to diagnose the problem. And BAs often jump in here to step 3 straight away. We try and figure out what the issue is and how we can solve it. But those first 2 steps are really important. And the next step is about action planning. Based on what we know so far, what are the options, how we're going to carry out this piece of consultancy work, this analysis, to address the issues that have been agreed upon. And then step 5 is implementing. And that's not implementing the ultimate solution, it's implementing the agreed plan of analysis work. So that might be workshops, surveys, interviews, running reports or collating information and playing that back to the sponsor. And the final step in the consultancy cycle, which is so important, is disengaging and evaluating. This is identifying any handover activities and completing final activities, evaluating the engagement with the customer. Did that engagement meet all the expectations of all parties? Did we stick to the plan? And what have we learned and what actions or projects are arising? So those 6 steps of the consulting cycle are really important, both for consultants and business analysts. So how can I summarize all of this? Well, first, BAs and consultants don't necessarily need subject matter expertise. Subject matter experts need to keep on top of the changes to their area of expertise, and both BAs and consultants should be applying the consultancy cycle to their engagements.
Thank you, Christina. That was thought-provoking. Thank you so much. Let me move to you, Wael, next. You have worn different hats within your professional journey, a financial advisor, a consultant, as well as a client hat. How do you see the skill sets and domain knowledge of a business analyst, an SME, or a consultant differ when working with a large corporate versus working with a small business?
Thank you, Dalia. I think obviously, I mean, not all large corporates, but a lot of large corporates, they typically have a lot of domain experts already on board. So a lot of technical knowledge is already available. It just requires perhaps that the analyst or the consultant, you know, reframe and reorganize that information that isn't necessarily clear, you know, at the top of everyone's head. Rearranging things and making things clearer to the management in terms of guiding strategy and that sort of thing. So there isn't a problem with accessing domain expertise. Obviously, in SMEs, that is typically a problem. So when a management consultant or a business analyst goes with their toolbox to a small company, typically the small company, the SME, also needs, in addition to help, you know, looking analytically at the company and the areas that need work and improvement and efficiency and all that, they also need someone to tell them how are these things usually done. You know, whether it's in supply chain or in finance or in HR, what are the best practices? And oftentimes the SME doesn't know the answer to, you know, how it should be done. So the consultant needs to have a lot more domain expertise and not rely on the company itself when dealing with smaller companies, because that expertise just isn't there across all the functions. And that's the main difference. You also find that difference in some large corporates as well that don't have very well developed functional areas. So they might be an industrial company that have very strong engineering, but they don't have a lot of domain expertise on the HR side, for example. So you might also find that in large companies. but predominantly this problem is something you would find with smaller companies.
Thank you, Wael. And now let me bring benefits and challenges to the table and ask you, from your position as the owner and CEO of the unique gift stores in town, what are the benefits you expect your business when you seek a consultancy service, as well as the main challenges that you have faced along your journey working with business consultants to achieve those desired benefits?
So, like I said, I mean, consultants, I think the main benefit when we work with consultants, we're looking to them to help us organize our thoughts. We're looking to them to help us tell us how we should prioritize the initiatives that need to be undertaken. What should we be doing first? What resources are required? Giving us clarity on how we can move forward, and perhaps even uncovering things that we hadn't seen. So that's typically what we expect from consultants that we've worked with.
Excellent. And what about challenges? What are the main challenges that you have faced along your journey working with business consultants or to achieve those benefits?
So on the challenges side, I think, well, firstly, I think in emerging markets in general, it's not easy finding consultants that have deep domain expertise. So it's not like you would get in the US or in Europe, where there are a lot more people you can rely on for domain expertise. I think in the emerging markets in general, the availability of expertise is a lot more limited. It's available to larger corporates, but it's not that available to smaller companies in emerging markets that have smaller budgets. So that's a challenge that we face. Another challenge we face is that when we do find some consultants with specific expertise, perhaps in finance or in management consulting or in HR, whatever, typically connecting with us and understanding the specifics of our industry and the problems relating to our industry, you tend to find that consultants are pretty much concentrated, in the emerging markets in one or two industries. They've got decent experience there, but when you take them across to industries that aren't as large in emerging markets, like retail, for example, that's where, for them understanding us and understanding the specific nature of our problems, usually there's a gap there, and it takes time to bridge that gap and connect with them and make sure that they truly understand the challenges that we're facing before we can even move forward to identifying what we should be doing next and how we should be prioritizing the initiatives and all that. Just getting the consultant educated and on board and aware of the nature of our specific problems. So finding consultants and when we do find them, usually they don't have specific in-depth expertise within our industry necessarily, and that's a problem in emerging markets in general.
Thank you, Wael. Thank you so much for raising those challenges. Thank you. Ayman, let me come to you next. With your long experience in a multinational technology corporation working across different industries, and your recent focus on strategic planning and digital transformation within the governmental sector, to what extent do you see those benefits and challenges of a consulting project differ from the private sector to the government organizations?
Okay, thank you for the opportunity again. Well, I'll be primarily focusing on what, in my view, characterizes the context in the government situation. So some of the differences are related to the basic government mandate of avoiding a situation of being locked in a certain technology or being a captive client in any sense. Another dimension is the strong need of realizing tangible and significant benefits. So working towards benefit realization is of the essence. Another aspect is the magnitude and breadth of change to be introduced in governmental territory, especially in situations where long-lasting legacies have been in place. Change is to be kind of really carefully and prudently managed here. One more key factor is the high focus on digital transformation as a vehicle for better citizen service and for eliminating or at least minimizing to a large extent corruption and downsides. Last but not the least is the overarching commitment to realizing the Vision 2030. Those contextual considerations have the following implications in my mind. Number one, there is a strong focus on managing change and navigating complex stakeholder engagement, where you have multi stakeholders in the form of ministries, government agencies, etc., and you need to do the appropriate motivation and the appropriate accommodation and onboarding of requirements and doing the necessary motivation for action. Second is the knowledge transfer issue. The knowledge transfer components of engagements are quite essential in governmental transactions. Third is there has to be a mechanism, a robust mechanism to measure success, to really define success in the first place and to have the appropriate indicators and discussions around how successful we are, and transparency and a spirit of partnership is really paramount here to be able to reap the fruits of the synergy and partnership between the service provider and the customer, and to be willing to, without turning into finger pointing, objectively look at the necessary remediation or recovery as the need would require. Fourth element is that there is a massive need for revamping processes as well as modernizing the technological infrastructure, both on the infrastructure in terms of the basic infrastructure, as well as the application and the more, let's say, application and business orientated infrastructure. So in conclusion, the major work to be done would be around capturing and documenting the existing processes and identifying the roadmap and phasing for revamp to eliminate friction points, to simplify the process, to effect value like cutting down cost or supplying higher level of convenience and so on and so forth. And doing that in an ambitious and realistic way, so that without really promising the moon, doing proper, manageable, continuous and agile-like approach to have success that definitely would breed success. Next is looking at the governance aspect, and that should aim at successful introduction of change attainment and very strong focus on the notion of comparative advantage for the state and how to make the capabilities of the state actually at the level that's desired in line with the national strategic framework. One underpinning work stream is actually developing and evolving the relevant enterprise and business architecture, because if you're not having this in place and you're not having the appropriate standards and the appropriate well-architected design, then things can be a little bit of a challenge or red herring here. I would look at the, if you allow me, the profile that I would love to see in a service provider in the space of consulting / management consulting / business analysis. So there is a genuine need for in-depth understanding of the Vision 2030 as it applies to the situation at hand, not just in broad terms, but really mapping this and looking at the appropriate bits and pieces of the programs and initiatives and how this links to the engagement at hand. Even if the engagement sounds like a little bit of a boxed and kind of granular scope, it certainly is part of a bigger picture. And one of the important takeaways that a customer in the government would appreciate is how this dovetails with other pieces and how this dovetails maybe with work that the government agency would do on its own or even with another supplier. So I know that competition is there, but I think that co-opetition is becoming more and more of the essence these days. Next point is to be ready, again, talking about the co-opetition, being ready to work with other service providers to the extent that's necessary to achieve the needed technological and business integration for the value of the customer and for the value of the nation. One of the basic tactics that have been around for many years, but then is kind of having a special focus here, is the notion of conditions of satisfaction. Obviously, a contractual scope or a scope statement or the work breakdown that has to be performed is of the essence and is really very important. Nonetheless, there is this conditions of satisfaction. What really makes the customer delighted? What is the expected value and benefit that the customer is really keen on? And in addition, notwithstanding doing all the work that has to be done, paying a very strong focus on that and making this as part of the ongoing dialogue with everybody, not just at the top, but then throughout the various categories and layers of the extended team on the part of the customer and on the part of the service provider, having this kind of loyalty to the project and the engagement. Next is quality controls and health assessment. They have to be really very strong and very candid and transparent. Nothing is really relevant, in my view, in governments more than transparency and being very candid about what can or cannot be achieved. And if there is something that's lacking on the part of the customer, being shy or being kind of subtle or indirect about it doesn't help anybody. So as much as you as a service provider have to look into gaps within your team, you also have to point out decently and obviously without offense whatever can be missing on the part of the client. This is a fair kind of gameplay that has to be in place. The heartbeat check with the sponsor is something that I cannot overstress. Making sure that the priorities are still the same, making sure that the perception of how the engagement is working well or otherwise, it has to be on an ongoing basis. And if the executive or the sponsor is busy, you have to find all sorts of channels to make sure that this is really happening, and not just assume that it's gonna be a good thing in the end. No, it has to be really looked at with care and diagnosed. The agile approach in terms of incremental delivery of benefits is key because we are talking about a massive change that's happening. Also, I would stress the need for the supplier or service provider to be willing to share some of their own knowledge without obviously disclosing something that's too classified, but some of the genuine care for the customer to be self-sufficient and to be able to operate with a good level of sustainability would require codifying and sharing knowledge in a way that makes the customer at the desired state. So these are my 2 cents here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayman. Very comprehensive view. Thank you so much. Angie, let me come to you next and ask you, with the long history you have working on multiple business transformation projects to establishing your own practice with a certain vision in mind, why do so many consulting projects fail?
Well, Dalia, if you're asking why many projects fail, that's because they don't have BAs. But if you're asking why consultancy projects fail, there are 3 main reasons. I think that consulting projects are bound to fail in most of the cases. And the 3 reasons are, first one is that I think most consultants have to some extent, I mean, what is prominent is that they have to fake their competencies to a certain level to portray extensive knowledge in an array of areas. And I think they really depend on their excellent communication skills and good looks, to fake that knowledge and portray it, whether it's about the business domain, previous experience, market insights, but they're not able to actually address the future. As Christina was saying, that they're always focused on the past or whatever they know and just trying to make it seem or look better. Second reason, as Rami mentioned, the consultants jump to recommendations too early before digging down and investigating the actual problem. So they are actually constrained to a certain vision of the solution that they're coming just to force upon you, often based on their own very specific, narrow, or even deep knowledge, but very specific to them, not necessarily the most fit for the case we're discussing. And they don't have accountability for results. And this is critical because in BA frameworks, actually, BAs are accountable for results. Part of our job is to evaluate and assess the final solution after implementation, but consultants come for a month or 2. They give you some advice and they leave and they're not accountable for the results ultimately. Of course, consequently, you have very high level deliverables. The recommendation comes in the form of PowerPoint presentations that are not tangible, not feasible. It looks really great. It's great design, but it doesn't have any in-depth knowledge in it, and it's not applicable. The way I see it is that there is a continuum. On one far end is the BA with techniques mastery, like data modeling, process modeling, strategy mapping to business capabilities. And on the other end is some form of interpersonal skills, domain knowledge, and we actually have to transparently slide from one end to the other, but we need to understand that they are opposing ends. If you rely on your communication, then you're not actually being a BA at that moment, you're just relying on something else. So these are the main 3 reasons. Just being a bit fake or superficial, or faking it till you make it, something like that. And the very high level fake deliverables that are not actually useful or do not deliver any benefit, and not being accountable to results.
That was brilliant. Thank you so much, Angie.
Thank you.
Yeah. Rami, let me bring you in and ask you, with your diverse experience in different types of consulting projects, to your current role as service delivery manager, what are the critical success factors of a consulting project from your point of view?
Okay, thanks, Dalia. In my opinion, the most important success factors for the projects, number 1 is the customer is satisfied. We can deliver a lot of documents and deliverables, as mentioned by Angie, and the customer may approve these deliverables or sign off even these deliverables, but he is not satisfied. The most success factor that he is satisfied for what he is being given. Another success factor is that he catches, or what I can say, holds a value that's maybe, or that's greater, or at least equal to the cost he's exchanging with this value. Another success factor is our recommended solutions and recommended advices must be beneficial for the customer. He should realize these benefits after implementing these solution. I think that these are the most critical success factors for the projects to be successful. But let me step back a little and tell you the 5 guidelines I think and we think that achieve these success factors. First of all, we have to enrich in the team a value-driven culture. Everyone in the team should ask himself, what is the value in the delivery I am documenting or delivering? What is the pain point or the real need that the client has that I can fulfill and I need to achieve? What is the core problem that I need to address or solve? This is very important because sometimes in the urge of and the pressure of time and work, sometimes we are process driven or procedure driven. Sometimes we are template driven, but we are not value driven. This may deviate us from achieving our goal and achieving our goal in delivering the value to the customer. This is one of the guidelines. Second guideline is both the customer, the stakeholder, and the analyst or the consultant. Together, they are collaborating to co-create the value the customer needs. This is a long process, a collaboration process to identify what is the value, to identify the exact value the customer needs, and to realize these values for the sake of the customer. This is a co-creation process. We cannot, the analysts cannot by themselves create this value, because at the end, accountable for realizing this value is the customer himself. So we are co-creating together this value. Third guideline to achieve these success factors is delivering business transparency and visibility. Sometimes the customer or the stakeholder has gray understanding of the problem, gray identification of the problems he has, and accordingly, maybe a gray solutions for these problems. We have to help them, as mentioned by Wael, we have to help them to open a new level of transparency, leverage the identifying the actual situation, the current situation, leverage this to give a clear visibility. Sometimes the customer himself or the stakeholder may identify the solution after he has a clear vision of the current situation and the core problem. We think that this is one of the important values we deliver. Another guideline that guides our delivery is we are building the capability. We think that if we build the capability, deliver the way we think, the way we are achieving these recommended solutions to the customer by knowledge transfer, for example, or in-house team that shadow our work. This is one of the important value that we are delivering to the customer, and I think it brings more credibility for the consultant or the analyst to the customer himself, that he is building this capability inside the organization. Last thing, I think that tailoring a solution according to the problem is very important guideline, because sometimes the consultant in urge of quick delivery or because he is jumping to conclusion based on his experience, sometimes he is quickly delivering a set of services, set of solutions. I think I can take Christina's sentence like the example of the dynamics consultant. He always says that solution is Microsoft Dynamics. He always says that this technology is the solution. This is what he understands. I think that tailoring the service, the solution, according to proper investigating the situation of the client is one of the guidelines that deliver at the end, eventually, the success factors that I have mentioned earlier. I can summarize that customer need to be satisfied. This is a success factor. He need to have a clear value that's greater or equal to the cost he's exchanging with against this value. And the end, our recommended solutions and our recommended actions must be beneficial after implementation for the customer.
That was very useful. Thank you so much, Rami. Thank you for that. So we have got some questions coming through. We're going to start with questions and answers. One of the questions we have is, how do you see the future of BA and consultancy? Angie, what's your thoughts on that?
The future for BAs and consultancy, actually, I don't see a lot of future for consultancy, Dalia, to be very honest. But for BAs, I think I would, here I would have to refer to the book, Delivering Business Analysis, written by Deborah and Christina. I think focusing on a service, BA service framework, where if we go back to the T-shaped concept, I think that we need to be specialized. BAs need to become more specialized. And vertically, each business analyst should specialize in certain techniques, mastery of these techniques to be able to provide a certain service at the best possible way. I think this is the future for BAs, most likely. I'm sorry, I don't have a future for consultants. Really sorry for that.
That's totally fine. Thank you for your answer. So we have got another question here that asks, how can BA and consultancy organizations help to adapt to new changes post-COVID pandemic? Deborah, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, that's fine. It's very interesting, actually, because I think we also have to draw a distinction between, and I'm sorry to be controversial here, good business analysts and, shall we say, not so good business analysts, okay? Because some business analysts, they really are not going to be very helpful in a lot of situations. But luckily, there are some excellent business analysts out there. And where I draw the distinction is between the business analysts who want to develop their skills, want to become, as Angie said, experts, who really want to be able to make a difference. And I think that what they can do then is they can really start to explore some of the things that Rami was talking about, which is around understanding whatever world you're in your organization, you are there to deliver a service to customers. And if we understand that, and we understand what the customers want and expect, and we understand our environment and context, then we can start to think about, in which case, what are the activities, if you like, the high-level value stream that takes us through what we do to deliver that service and to work collaboratively to co-create value with customers, understanding what it is they want. In a world of post-COVID, of digital technology development, of disruption to businesses and industries, we have to take that service view. And a good business analyst understands that and understands the need to adapt and evolve and grow their toolkit to be able to look at the world through that lens. If we have that, then business analysts can do wonders for organizations. They really can. And they They have to constantly be aware of where it is customers stand and what it is customers want and how we can work with them to achieve that in line with what our organization does. I think in terms of consultants, there are good consultants, there are not so good consultants, I'm afraid. Some of them, actually, I think the better ones do have a lot of the BA toolkit. Maybe I would say that, but I really do think that, because analytical thinking underpins consultancy and business analysis to do a really good job. And so my sort of thinking is that whatever level you're working at for an organization, you have to have your toolkit, you have to have an analytical mindset. To quote Christina earlier, you have to have curiosity, but you also have to be prepared to understand that environment and understand that service that you're trying to deliver. And whether you're a consultant trying to set a bit of a scene and a guide at a strategic level for an organization and coming in externally, or whether you're a business analyst tending to work more internally, but equally helping to make sure that service is defined and delivered, you need that T-shaping, you need that skill set, and you need to understand that you cannot deliver value. You deliver products and services. You understand that service is based on utility, beneficial outcomes, and customer experience, and you work towards that. And you work towards that within the context of the environment you're living and working in.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much, Debbie. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you. This is all the questions we have. I would like to thank you all so much. Thank you so much for the panel, for all your contributions. Thank you so much for BBL and BCS for putting this together. And thank you to everybody who joined us today. Thanks everyone, and have a lovely weekend.